Zippy was a small bee with a big heart. She lived in a hive with many other bees. They buzzed and worked together. Zippy wanted to help her hive, but she felt small and insignificant. Times were tough. The sun was hot. It hadn't rained in days. The flowers were wilting. Nectar was scarce. The bees worried. What would they do? Zippy listened to the older bees. They talked about moving the hive. They spoke in hushed tones. Zippy knew they were worried. She wanted to help, but what could a small bee do? Zippy felt a deep longing in her heart. She wished she could make a difference. One day, Zippy, a curious and adventurous little bee, overheard the queen bee talking in hushed tones. The queen spoke of a legend, a tale passed down through generations of bees. It was the legend of the sky flower, a mystical bloom that was said to hold extraordinary powers. This magical flower bloomed on top of Whispering Cliff, a place shrouded in mystery and wonder. The sky flower's nectar was said to be sweeter than the finest honey, a taste that could bring joy and strength to any bee who sipped it. Zippy's heart buzzed with excitement. She had an idea, a bold and daring plan that began to form in her mind. A dangerous and daring idea, one that would take her far from the safety of the hive and into the unknown. She would embark on a quest to find the sky flower to bring back its precious nectar. She would bring back its nectar, a gift that could save her hive from the hardships they faced. She would save her hive, proving her bravery and determination to all. The older bees chuckled at her enthusiasm. "A sky flower? That's just a silly story," they said, their laughter echoing through the hive. But Zippy didn't care. She believed in the legend with all her heart. She knew that sometimes the most incredible stories held a grain of truth. She felt a surge of bravery, a fire igniting within her that she had never felt before. Zippy would prove them wrong. She would show them that even the smallest bee could achieve great things. Zippy knew the way to Whispering Cliff was long and dangerous. The path was fraught with obstacles and perils, but she was determined. She gathered her courage, her wings trembling with anticipation. Zippy took a deep breath and buzzed. "I will find the sky flower." With that, she launched into the air, her tiny wings carrying her towards the horizon, where the legend awaited. The next morning, Zippy prepared for her journey. She ate a hearty breakfast of pollen. She stretched her wings. She took a deep breath. It was time. Zippy buzzed goodbye to her sisters. They looked at her with worry. "Be careful, Zippy," they called out. Zippy smiled. She knew they doubted her, but she couldn't be stopped. With a mighty buzz, Zippy launched herself into the air. The sun felt warm on her wings. The wind whispered in her ears. Zippy was flying. She was on a quest to save her hive. She was no ordinary bee. Zippy was an adventurer. Zippy's journey was full of surprises. She had set out early in the morning, her wings buzzing with excitement. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden hue over the landscape. As she flew over fields of blooming flowers, she felt a sense of freedom and adventure. Little did she know her day was about to get a lot more interesting. She met a mischievous crow named Russell. Russell was known in the forest for his playful antics and cheeky demeanor. He had a knack for getting into trouble and dragging others along with him. When he spotted Zippy, he saw an opportunity for some fun. Russell promised to show her the way to Whispering Cliff. Whispering Cliff was a place of legend, said to hold secrets of the forest whispered by the wind. Zippy had always wanted to visit, and Russell's offer seemed too good to pass up. But first, he wanted a ride on Zippy's back. Zippy hesitated, unsure if she could carry the weight of a crow. But Russell was persistent, and with a bit of coaxing she agreed. It was a sight to behold, a tiny bee carrying a crow, flapping her wings with all her might.
"Hey, Zippy! How about giving me a lift? I promised to show you the way." Russell's voice was filled with mischief, and Zippy couldn't help but laugh. She knew he was up to something, but the promise of Whispering Cliff was too tempting.
Zippy soon realized Russell was only teasing her. She buzzed away, chuckling. She had learned her lesson. Not everything that glitters is gold. As she flew away, she could hear Russell's laughter echoing through the trees. Next, Zippy bumped into a clumsy beetle named Barnaby. Barnaby was known for his awkwardness and tendency to trip over his own feet. He was a gentle soul, but his clumsiness often got him into sticky situations. Barnaby was scared of everything. The rustling of leaves, the chirping of birds, even his own shadow. When Zippy accidentally bumped into him, he nearly jumped out of his shell. He clung to Zippy's back for dear life. He wouldn't let go. Zippy tried to reassure him, but Barnaby was too frightened to listen. He held on tight, his little legs wrapped around her.
"Oh no, Zippy! Don't leave me behind!" Barnaby's voice was filled with panic. Zippy could feel his tiny heart racing against her back. She knew she had to find a way to calm him down.
Zippy tried to shake him off, but Barnaby held on tight. Zippy sighed. It seemed she had a new sidekick. She decided to make the best of it and continued her journey with Barnaby clinging to her back. As Zippy and Barnaby flew over a park, they attracted the attention of some children. The park was filled with laughter and the sound of children playing. Zippy loved flying over the park, but today she had to be extra careful.
Look! A bee! The children pointed excitedly, their eyes wide with wonder. Zippy knew she had to act fast. She didn't want to scare the children, but she also didn't want to get caught.
Zippy quickly ducked behind a tree. She didn't want to get caught. Barnaby trembled with fear. He had never been so close to humans before, and the experience was overwhelming. They waited until the children were gone. Zippy was starting to think this journey was more challenging than she imagined. But despite the challenges, she felt a sense of accomplishment. She had made new friends and learned valuable lessons. As she and Barnaby continued their journey, she couldn't help but feel excited about what other adventures awaited them. After a long and tiring journey, Zippy and Barnaby reached Whispering Cliff. The journey had been arduous, filled with numerous obstacles and challenges that tested their resolve. They had flown through stormy weather, navigated dense forests, and crossed vast meadows. Each step of the way, they had kept their eyes on the prize, the legendary skyflower, a beacon of hope for their hive. Zippy's heart pounded with excitement. She had heard tales of the skyflower since she was a young bee, stories passed down through generations. The skyflower was said to possess magical properties that could rejuvenate their hive and bring prosperity. It was the stuff of legends, and now she was on the brink of witnessing it with her own eyes. Finally, she would see the legendary skyflower. The anticipation was almost too much to bear. She could hardly believe that after all their efforts, they were so close to their goal. The thought of the skyflower's vibrant petals and its rumored healing nectar filled her with hope and determination.
Zippy, we're almost there! Barnaby's voice was filled with excitement and relief. He had been Zippy's steadfast companion throughout the journey, always encouraging her to keep going, even when the path seemed impossible.
She peered over the edge of the cliff. The view was breathtaking, with the vast landscape stretching out before her. But her eyes were fixed on one thing, the skyflower. It stood out, even from a distance, with its unique glow and majestic presence. And there it was. But Zippy's heart sank. The skyflower, which she had imagined to be full of life and color, was not as she had hoped. The skyflower was wilting. Its petals were dry and brittle. The once vibrant colors were now faded, and the flower looked like it was struggling to survive. The sight was heartbreaking. The drought had affected even this magical flower. The land around it was parched and cracked, a stark reminder of the harsh conditions they had been facing. The drought had taken its toll on everything, even the legendary skyflower.
Oh no, Zippy, it's wilting. Barnaby's voice was filled with sorrow. He had hoped that the skyflower would be their salvation, but now it seemed like their journey had been in vain.
Zippy felt a wave of despair wash over her. All their efforts, all their hopes seemed to be crumbling before her eyes. She had dreamed of this moment for so long, and now it felt like a cruel twist of fate. What was she going to do now? The question echoed in her mind. She had come so far, but now she was at a loss. The skyflower had been their last hope, and it was failing.
I told you it was just a silly legend. Barnaby's words stung, but Zippy knew he didn't mean to hurt her. He was just as disappointed and lost as she was.
Zippy wanted to be angry, but she knew Barnaby didn't mean it. He was trying to cope with the disappointment in his own way. They had both invested so much into this journey, and now they had to face the reality of their situation. He was just as disappointed as she was. Zippy knew she couldn't give up. She had to find a way to turn this situation around. The skyflower might be wilting, but there had to be something they could do. She had to find another way to help her hive. But what? The question lingered in her mind, but she knew one thing for sure. She couldn't give up. Not now, not ever. The journey had taught her resilience, and she was determined to find a solution, no matter how difficult it might be. Zippy looked around. In the distance, she saw a farm. There were rows and rows of colorful flowers. A wave of hope surged through her. Maybe she could find help there. Zippy and Barnaby flew towards the farm. They saw a kind-looking farmer tending to his crops. He was planting new seeds and watering the thirsty plants. Zippy knew she had to get his attention.
Hello, little bee. What brings you to my farm?
Zippy knew she couldn't speak to the farmer, but maybe she could show him. Zippy flew towards a patch of dry, cracked earth. She buzzed around it urgently. Then she flew back to the farmer, leading him towards the dry patch. The farmer understood. He smiled and nodded. He picked up his watering can and carefully watered the dry earth. Zippy buzzed happily. She had found a way to help. Zippy continued to guide the farmer. She showed him all the places where the flowers were wilting. The farmer listened patiently and tended to each one. Zippy felt a surge of gratitude. They were working together to save the flowers. Zippy's bravery inspired other bees. They joined her at the farm. Soon the air was abuzz with activity. The bees helped the farmer pollinate his flowers. The farm was blooming again. Word spread about the kind farmer and the hard-working bees. People came from all over to buy his flowers. They planted the seeds in their gardens. They watered their plants. Slowly but surely, the entire meadow came back to life. The flowers thrived, and so did the bees. There was plenty of nectar for everyone. Zippy and Barnaby returned to the hive, their tiny bodies laden with sweet, delicious nectar. When Zippy returned to the hive, she was greeted with cheers. The bees buzzed with excitement. They praised her bravery. They thanked her for saving their hive. Zippy felt a warmth spread through her. It was the warmth of pride. Zippy had learned a valuable lesson. It didn't matter that she was small. What mattered was her courage, her kindness, and her willingness to work together. Even the smallest bee could make a big difference. And so, Zippy, the little bee with a big heart, became a hero. She taught everyone that even in the face of adversity, there is always hope. And sometimes the smallest creatures can achieve the greatest things.